Hi Year 11, hi Year 10 as well, you should be revising for your mock. Today we're making a video about the paper 1, question 4 on the AQA English language paper. Now this is a reading question, but it's a bit different from the others. A lot of them tend to be 8, 12 marks across those two papers. This one's worth 20 marks, so it's like a mini essay. And people get a bit worried about it and frightened, but actually it's quite easy to decide what to write for this one. And once you know what to do, it should be quite easy to plan your answer. So the piece of reading we are going to use for this one is this extract. This is an extract from a detective novel called Farewell, My Lovely. It was written in the 1940s, so it is historical, though it's not Victorian. What I would like you to do is pause this video now and read the extract on the screen. Then I unpause it, I will scroll down to the bottom and you can finish reading it. And as you unpause, okay, so you've paused and unpaused and you've read the whole of this one side of A4 paper. Just to quickly summarize what's happening, this is kind of in America in the 1940s, the kind of like gangsters like in Bugsy Malone and stuff that wear the fancy suits. And this guy is wearing a fancy suit and he's quite clearly kind of dodgy, some kind of gangster. The narrator is a detective. He sees this strange man walking into a bar and immediately another guy who looks like some kind of gangster flies out, showing that there's a fight going on. We don't know what's going on inside. You know, if we're looking at the structure, that leads to intrigue. Detective goes in. When he goes in, he hears a dull, flat sound. And he thinks, is it a shutting door or is it something else? And that is a euphemism for, is it a gunshot? He and the barman think it's a gunshot. I had listened too long. They're scared. They're like, oh, shouldn't be hanging around here. And suddenly, out comes, with a bang, a gangster called Moose Malloy. And he's huge. He's looking a bit kind of unhinged. Wide pale grin on his face. And he's holding a gun, a Colt Army 45. He threatens them. He tells them to put their hands on the bar. So the barman and the detective freeze. They're worried. They know he probably knows they witnessed his murder. And he's searching for something. And it kind of leaves on a bit of cliffhanger that Moose Malloy is indeed the man in the crazy clothes. But he's very, very stressed and he's got a gun. And even if he didn't have a gun, he's capable of physically throwing someone out through a door. So it's all a bit scary. So, if you had this extract and you got to question 4, which I just realised has self-corrected to 2, it's 4, you would get the first sentence. Focus this part of your answer on the second part of the source, paragraph 4 onwards. It won't always say paragraph 4 onwards, but whatever it says, you need to go back and you need to think, right, I want to highlight the right part of my text. This is the right part of the text. Okay? I always tell my students, you've already done the other 3 questions. So actually for this bit, just get your pen and do like lines right through it or a big X through the bit that you don't write about. Or do a big circle around the bit that you do write about. So you know I can only take quotations from this section. Then look back at the question. This is an evaluative question. When you evaluate something, you usually have a hypothesis or a theory and you have some evidence and you kind of weigh them up together and consider them in relation to each other. The hypothesis, the theory that you're given is a sentence that a student has said. I say a student, I am 99% sure that it's someone who works at the exam board. But yeah, a student has said, this part of the text shows a menacing and dangerous turn in the story. The sentence that you get will always be really obviously true or really obviously untrue. They're not going to disadvantage you by giving you something where you're like, oh, I don't know if it is or it isn't. What they're looking for is that you can say yes and. So the people who are going for maybe grade 1 or 2 will be able to say yes and bring some evidence to the table. The people who are looking for the higher grades will say yes and maybe different ways in which it's scary, different ways in which it's menacing. How menacing? Is it life or death menacing, or is it just a bit creepy? That kind of thing. So when you get the sentence, it will largely be true. There'll be some words that match up. So here is menacing and dangerous. Well, they're in a room with a stressed out, gigantic gangster with a gun. It is menacing and dangerous. Then they'll ask you to what extent do you agree? And you can see I've highlighted it for what extent. What we mean is, you're going to say yes. I've never seen a no one. I don't know if a no one might come up one year, but it's always been a yes one. You're going to say yes, but you're going to say yes and. Yeah? So, for example, yes, it's menacing and surprising when he bursts out with a bang. Yeah? Or you're going to say it's dangerous, but. So you might say, yes, it's dangerous, but the barman and the detective managed to protect themselves by quietly following his instructions. So those kind of things, you're looking at yes and. Now, what I don't want you to do is write yes, I agree, and then a quote, because what they want from you, they want squids. They want the same kind of thing as you've just done, and actually you might end up using a similar quotation. They want you to talk about methods, because they ask you to consider your own impressions of the danger. We've covered that. You're saying yes and, or you're saying yes but, or you're saying yes although. Evaluate how the writer creates the idea of danger and menace. So in that bit, you're going to say, for example, yes, it's dangerous and it's shocking because there's the onomatopoeia of the word bang when Moose Malloy comes in through the door. Yeah, and you can say, structurally, the word bang after a paragraph about a suspected gunshot will make the reader jump, and the kind of danger that is expressed is a shocking, sudden danger. Whereas, if you want to talk about structurally, further on, when he's talking and just holding the gun, talking and holding the gun, that's a kind of creeping, ongoing menace. And that's shown structurally by several one-sentence paragraphs that slows down the action and makes it painfully slow, so a few seconds seem like an eternity because everyone's staring at the gun and they don't know if he's going to be out of control. So what you're doing is you're saying yes and going into a bit more detail. Now it's 20 marks. For 20 marks, you want to be writing between 3 and 4 paragraphs. So you're going to have to decide and plan in advance what you write in those 3 or 4 paragraphs. The reason you want 3 or 4 is that shows consistency and development. If you just do it once, the exam can say, well, was it a fluke, and it's not quite enough detail, it's not quite developed enough. If you do 3, and all 3 have methods, and all 3 have thoughtful details in them, and all 3 relate back to evaluating how menacing and dangerous it is, then the examiner can say, yes, they can definitely do all of those skills over and over again. They can consistently do it. I know they can do it. They're going to get a higher grade. The other tip I would give is being precise. And what I mean by that is, I'm going to kind of cheat because I'm on a computer. If you see these words menacing and dangerous, they're often kind of umbrella words that have lots and lots of synonyms and lots of more particular synonyms. So if I click on menacing, in my answer, some parts of the story, Malloy is threatening, like where he's saying, put your mitts on the bar. He's threatening them. Other moments are shocking and alarming, like when they hear the door slam, and it's not really a door slam, it's a gun. They're like, oh, that's a bit menacing. Or ominous. So when he's looking at the bartender who's drooling with fear, and they're looking around thinking what's going to happen next, and he says he's been there too long, that's ominous, because it's kind of foreshadowing. If he's been there too long, he hasn't got time to escape before the murderer comes up. Looming. When Malloy is kind of standing there and he's huge and kind of dominating them, he's looming. Yeah? Foreboding. Again, that'll be another word for where they're kind of like, okay, we've been here too long, we've heard this gunshot, we don't know what to do, we don't want to run away because we haven't got time, but we know we're going to get caught. So yeah, it's using your vocabulary to be quite particular. You're not being marked on writing, but you know, you want to be quite particular in that way. So again, for dangerous, your synonyms, unsafe. So it's unsafe to be in a room where you've just heard a murder. But I might say, hazardous. Hazardous to me suggests something like chemicals or something like that. Risky or treacherous. Risky, listening to a gangster shooting someone and then staying too long is risky. Yeah? Treacherous. Treachery, mate, you know, is this kind of crime, that kind of thing. So yeah, I might say treacherous. Daring. Yes, this sense that he's done something daring because he's stayed too long. So you are going to think of at least 3, possibly 4 different ways in which it's menacing and dangerous. And I'm just going to show you the plan because we haven't got time to write it. So I'd go back. I'm looking through here. And I'm, yeah, there's the danger because he's being daring, yeah? And that foreshadows the idea that he's going to do something dangerous. So you've got things like, it wasn't any of my business. So obviously I would just highlight that and put in some quotes. It wasn't any of my business, yeah? And it kind of foreshadows there that he should really stay away. Yeah? But then you've got, so I pushed them open and looked in. And he's not listening to his better judgment here. So in terms of method, I might say, well, there's a bit of a contrast in the mood there. It wasn't any of my business, so I pushed them open and looked in. There's a kind of juxtaposition or contrast between thoughts and actions. So there are my technical words. Slightly structural, slightly linguistic. Okay, next thing I need to think about for this little block is what's the effect? Well, the effect is that he is being risky, and that's again foreshadowing the approaching, I don't want danger or menace. Yeah, I might say menace and threat. Yeah, you can talk about, you know, he's deciding to go into a situation, so that's going to concern us. Yeah, we are going to worry because he's making bad choices in terms of his personal safety. So then you might want to pull out another quote. You look in here. I'm thinking, well, you've got the foreboding here. You could talk about this. You could talk about, I had listened too long. Yeah, you've got some alliteration there. You have to be quick because this only goes. So you've got some alliteration. And it's a kind of tense, fearful moment of realization. He realizes he's heard a murder and he can't escape. And then, of course, you might want to talk about opened with a bang. So straight away this character is violent. Yeah? And you've got onomatopoeia. Okay, sudden violence, and so on. Your plan should be a little bit like this, like method, what's the danger? And you go through there until you've got 3 or 4 good paragraphs worth. You don't need to do absolutely everything in the extract. 3 or 4 thoroughly done paragraphs are far better. I will post up some model examples on Firefly, and I'll post one up on a little mini video you can pause and read as well. Good luck with your revision.